And starting webinar. All righty. Welcome everyone to today's webinar. I want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Emma Shinall and I lead the incentives team here at PowerFlex. We're so excited for all of those who are joining us today that may be interested in adopting some EV charging solutions at your various organizations and sites. So my team is really excited to introduce you all to some funding opportunities that really will ultimately help reduce your costs in meeting your EV charging goals. So I want to quickly go through an agenda of what we're going to be covering today. First, we're going to start out with just a little bit about PowerFlex, and then we're going to dive into the specific funding programs located in New Jersey, and then we'll have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. So as I said, I want to start with telling you a little bit more about PowerFlex, particularly what we offer to help you reach your carbon goals. So what is PowerFlex? PowerFlex is a clean technology solutions company making the transition to carbon-free electrification and transportation possible through things like EV charging, solar storage, and intelligent energy management systems. So we help everyone from property developers, sustainability teams, operations teams, all the way to fleet managers, IT professionals, and even drivers turn their sites into green energy hubs. So how do we do that exactly? We have a suite of solutions that includes commercial solar, energy storage, microgrids, and EV charging. And additionally, PowerFlex also has an energy management software called PowerFlex X that helps our customers monitor and optimize their onset energy assets and systems. So in addition to that suite of solutions, PowerFlex is also a all-in-one provider from everything from original site validations through development all the way through actual construction and beyond that with over time operations and maintenance as well. And kind of the best part is when you work with PowerFlex, you have one point of contact for all your clean tech solutions and products. So as I mentioned before, PowerFlex will manage the project from start to finish. We're here as your partner to make sure that the project fits your needs. And all you have to do at the end of the day is hopefully press the on button. So I want to quickly highlight some of the customers that we've been so fortunate to develop some clean energy solutions for. You may recognize some organization names here. And now I want to dive into a little bit just about our history. So PowerFlex is majority owned by EDF Renewables, and the EDF group holds over 70 years of experience in energy and over 35 years of experience in renewable energy. So focusing specifically on EV charging, which is kind of what we're here to talk and learn about today, PowerFlex is the #1 provider of large-scale EV charging solutions. And we're also the 4th largest public level 2 charging station network in the US. So we're really proud to have installed well over 15,000 chargers nationwide to date. Alrighty, now it's time to get into the fun stuff, the funding, the dollars. So there is a few things that I want the audience just to note while we dive into these funding opportunities in New Jersey. So the first thing I just want to preface is that we're going to talk about a few different funding programs. And one key thing to keep in mind is all programs are going to have varying levels of scope and what they call quote unquote eligible costs. So not every program agrees to cover any kind of costs associated with an EV project. So we'll kind of touch on that a little bit. But again, for the most accurate kind of estimate about your specific project you may have in mind, the best thing to do is reach out to us at sales@powerflex.com. And we can get you kind of a more tailored specific estimate based on eligible programs for your site. So that's one thing I want to mention. And additionally, these programs are not designed for you to make a profit off of. So you'll see throughout the programs we talk about, several programs have some kind of percentage cost cap, whether that be up to 50% of eligible costs, up to 70% of eligible costs, even 100% of eligible costs. But at the end of the day, it can never go beyond that 100% of what was actually spent for the project. And additionally, kind of the highlight of today's webinar is we're going to talk about these incentive programs. We're going to talk about all the eligibility, all the rules, all the processes to apply. And one thing I really hope you keep in mind is that PowerFlex will manage the incentive application and all required and continuous coordination. That's exactly what my team at PowerFlex here kind of has an expertise in. We have great relationships with incentive programs nationwide. So this is something that we offer to kind of take that weight off of your plate. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive into our first program, and I'm going to turn it over to Tess, one of our incentive experts, to talk about this one.
Thank you, Emma, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Tess Anacker. I am one of the incentive experts here at PowerFlex, and today I will be going over some of the rebate programs in New Jersey. So the first program we will dive into is available to customers across all of New Jersey. This is the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection It Pays to Plug program. This program is currently on a wait list, so all new applications will be added to the wait list, but the good news is that this program is likely to be refunded in the future, so no worries there. Eligible project types for this program include workplace, fleet, public facilities, and multi-unit dwellings, so a lot of different options there. And they do require, for multi-unit dwellings, they must have a minimum of 5 units in order to be eligible for this program. Some additional eligibility requirements are that sites cannot have existing chargers, and you cannot begin construction or incur costs until funding is awarded and the incentive agreement has been signed. The nice thing about this program, since it is statewide, is that it is stackable with other utility programs. So we will be talking about some of the utility programs that you are able to stack this funding with later on. But yeah, moving on into the funding for this program. So yeah, a single site can only apply for funding once, and a single entity or organization can only receive $500,000 in funding per year. They do have some port requirements for this program. So applicants must install a minimum of 2 charging ports, and NJDP will fund a maximum of 20 ports per location. The way that they determine funding for this program is on a per port basis. So for each level 2 charging port that you install, you can receive up to $4,000 in funding. And I did want to point out on the bottom right here, we list some of the eligible and ineligible costs for this program. So for this program, equipment is one of the eligible costs and make-ready work is one of the ineligible costs. I just wanted to point that out because some of the other programs we will be talking about today will kind of be the opposite of that, and eligible costs really vary program to program. But for this NJDP program, they will cover the cost of equipment. So I just wanted to point that out. Moving on to the next program. This is the PSE&G New Jersey EV charging program. This program is currently open and rolling, and it is for customers in the PSE&G service territory. You can also stack this program with the NJDP program that I just spoke about. And for this program, they have 2 different funding routes. So the first one is the mixed use commercial L2 program. And the eligible sites for this would include multifamily properties, government entities, and locations where property owners can provide charger access to the public. So all of those site types would be considered for the mixed use program. And then they also offer the public DCFC program. And the main site eligibility criteria there is that chargers must be accessible to the public 24/7. And I also wanted to point out the map on the right there. PSENG, their service territory is in the center in orange. We will also be talking about JCP&L in blue and Atlantic City Electric in yellow later on, but just wanted to point that out. So if you have any projects in mind that fit this criteria within that PSENG service territory, we would encourage you to reach out to our team so that you can take advantage of this funding, as this program is currently open and accepting applications on a rolling basis. So yeah, moving on into the funding specifics for PSENG. This program is a little bit different from the NJDP program in terms of eligible costs. So for this program, both of the funding routes are issued in the form of a utility bill credit toward the cost of upgrading customer-side make-ready assets. So customer-side make-ready work would include infrastructure work on the customer side of the meter. And then for the mixed-use commercial L2 program, you can get up to $7,500 per charger for up to 4 chargers per site, for a maximum funding amount of $30,000. And then for the public DCFC program, you can get up to $25,000 per charger for up to 4 chargers per site, for a maximum funding amount of $100,000. So just to clarify, as it can get a little confusing, the way that they calculate the rebate for this program is on a per port basis, but the eligible cost that the rebate can be applied to is the customer make-ready work. So just wanted to point that out. Yeah, moving on to the next program. We have the JCP&L EV-driven program. This program is currently open and rolling, and funding is expected to last through December 31st, 2026, but this is just an estimate and funding could be exhausted before then. This program is for customers in the JCP&L territory, and you can also stack this rebate with the NJDP program. So eligible project types would include workplace, MUDs, and public. And the unique thing about this program is that incentive applications are submitted after installation occurs. So for the past 2 programs I've talked about, you would apply for the rebate before starting work on the project or incurring costs. But for this program, you don't apply until after the project is complete and installation has occurred. So just something a little bit different there that I wanted to point out. And similarly to the PSENG program, JCP&L also offers 2 different program routes, but the program requirements for these subgroups are a little bit different than PSENG. So for the mixed-use commercial L2 program, for JCP&L, this consists of a customer make-ready incentive and a utility make-ready incentive. Chargers must be publicly accessible for workplace projects to be funded. And you can also unlock a higher incentive amount if you have a multi-unit dwelling site that is located within an overburdened community. So you'll see on the right there, we have a map of the New Jersey overburdened communities. So if you did have a multi-unit dwelling site within one of those OBCs that is in the JCP&L territory, you would be able to unlock that higher rebate amount. And then for the DCFC public charging program, that consists of a customer make-ready incentive, a utility make-ready work incentive, and a demand charge discount. So if this program seems like a good fit for you, or maybe you have a project site in mind and have some project-specific questions, feel free to reach out to us at sales@powerflex.com, and we would be happy to assist you. Again, since this program is currently open and rolling and you wouldn't apply until after installation has occurred, we would be able to assist you with your projects even if you have started work on them already. So that's the nice thing about this program, and just wanted to point that out to reach out to us if you have any questions. Yeah, moving on to the funding specifics for JCP&L. Something to quickly clarify for the eligible costs for this program. So JCP&L will cover utility make-ready and customer make-ready work. So the difference between those is that utility make-ready work consists of the infrastructure work that is needed to get the site ready to install chargers on the utility side of the meter. And customer make ready work is the infrastructure work on the customer side of the meter. So that would include things like the panel, conduits, and wiring. So yeah, just wanted to quickly make that distinction. So JCP&L will fund up to 10 ports for all program offerings. And they do have a funding cap that no one participant can account for more than 50% of the total program budget. So for the mixed use commercial program for the utility make ready portion, that rebate is based on the cost of utility make ready work up to $11,100 per site. And for the customer make ready portion, that incentive is equal to the cost of customer make ready work up to the funding caps that we have on the right side in that table. So just as an example, if you are installing chargers at a multifamily site that is located within an overburdened community, you can get $8,375 per port. So if you're installing 10 ports there, you would be able to get an incentive of $83,750 that goes toward the customer make-ready work costs. And then for the public DCFC program, for the utility make-ready portion, that incentive is equal to the utility make-ready work up to $50,500 per site. And for the customer make-ready portion, JCP&L will cover the cost of customer make-ready work up to $25,000 per port. So you really can unlock a lot of funding through this program, depending on the project site type and the number of chargers that you are installing. And again, similarly to the PSENG program, the rebate amount is calculated on a per port basis, but the eligible costs are the utility and customer side make ready work. So just wanted to point that out again. So yeah, now I will pass it on to Emma, who will be talking about our next funding program.
Awesome. Thank you, Tess. All right, the last program we're going to be talking about today is the EV Smart program being hosted by Atlantic City Electric. So applications are currently being accepted on a first come, first serve rolling basis, and the program is anticipated to stay open until December 31st of 2026 or until program funds are exhausted. So any installations that have been completed after February 17th, 2021 are eligible for incentives. So this is a type of program that you can apply for post-installation or pre-installation. This program also has a very wide eligible project type list. So public sites, workplaces, multifamily dwellings, and light duty fleets are all eligible. Excuse me. And customers just have to agree to operate, maintain, and share charging data for 5 years following the installation. And you'll also see tied to each kind of eligible project type or site type is going to be the port maximums for each of those facilities. So a workplace and multifamily and then light duty fleet projects are going to have that 10 port max per site. And then public charging sites are going to have the 2 port max per site. Now diving into the funding. So The funding tiers are broken up between 50% coverage, 75% coverage, or 90% coverage of make-ready costs, depending on that facility type that we just kind of reviewed on the previous page. So do want to highlight that up to 100% of funding reserved for multifamily projects in overburdened communities. So the map can be found on the previous slide. So eligible costs for this, when we say make ready, that's any materials and labor associated with preparing the site for EV charging. So that's going to include panel, conduit, cables, breakers, etc. So things like the actual equipment, networking, and warranties are not going to be eligible to be covered by this program, but that's the benefit with the stackability of other programs. So that very first program we reviewed coming out of uh, NJDEP does offer to cover equipment, I believe, so we can stack and work those things out. This is stackable with other, like I said, state, federal, and third-party programs. And the program does have a rule that no more than 20% of their total budget, their total funding budget, can be allocated to one entity. So to put it in perspective, let's say you were a workplace, they have 300 level 2 ports eligible for funding. So they kind of break out their funding by site type. And for a workplace, you could be looking at coverage of up to 50% of make-ready costs, and that can be 4,500 per port, so whichever ends up lesser. And then that incentive cap, as we kind of already reviewed, is going to be the 10 ports per site. So you could be looking at up to $45,000 or 50% of make-ready costs, whichever ends up being the lesser. So the last thing we want to dive into is going to be kind of a general customer timeline or what you can expect when participating in one of these incentive programs. So as you notice, there are a few programs here and there. Tess happened to cover one where you actually don't apply for an incentive till after the project has been completed. That is a bit of an outlier that we see nationwide. So this overview timeline that I'm going to go over is going to cover what we see more often, which is going to be you apply before you really start incurring costs and completing the project. So the first stage is going to be what we call a pre-application stage. This is where PowerFlex is going to work with you to prepare a preliminary site design and project quote that best fits your site and organization's needs. And then additionally, my team is going to be working to prepare and submit an incentive application. Once we get that incentive application submitted, the incentive program is going to review and hopefully approve of that application. And typically after that point, when the approval comes through, you would sign a funding agreement with that incentive program, just saying that you agree to follow the program rules, etc. And then you'll also sign an agreement with PowerFlex for the project. Then we'll actually begin the construction of the project, which can range depending on the level of utility, customer side make-ready work, the magnitude of chargers, various things. But all throughout that construction process, my team will be checking in periodically with the project management team as we collect final documentation to submit to the incentive program. So most incentive programs require pretty extensive final documentation to kind of finalize and release that rebate amount. So proof that the project's actually been completed. That can include things like final inspection cards, proof of permit, all the invoices for the project costs, registration with the AFDC, things like that. So we'll take care of collecting and fulfilling all of those needs. And once we have that final documentation submitted, now the chargers are operational, the incentive program is reviewing and hopefully approving of that final documentation. There are scenarios where sometimes incentive programs come back to us asking for clarification or additional documentation. We continue to coordinate all of that until that approval comes through. And then once the approval comes through, the incentive program will issue that payment typically via check within 30 to 60 days of that approval. And my team's work does not stop there. Additionally, once the project has been complete and the payment has been received, most incentive programs require the submission of charger usage data for varying levels of time. The lowest we've typically seen is 1 to 3 years, but there are programs out there that require it for um, 10 years even. So that's something that PowerFlex will continue to take care of and fulfill on your behalf, whether it's monthly, quarterly, annually, doesn't matter. We'll make sure that usage data is submitted accordingly and that that need is fulfilled. So that wraps up our presentation for today as far as New Jersey programs go. I think we have a few minutes for 1 or 2 questions. So I'm going to direct the first question we have to Tess. So, Tess, can you answer if PowerFlex only works in the state of New Jersey, which is the state we covered today?
Yeah, I can take that one. So PowerFlex does not only work in New Jersey. We are a national EV charger solutions provider with deployments across the country with over 15,000 chargers to date. So our work does not just stop in New Jersey. Our incentives team works with incentive programs nationwide, and we have many built and established relationships with program administrators, specifically in California, New York, Georgia, Arizona, Washington, you name it. So our work does not just stop here in New Jersey. If you have any projects located in another state, we are here to help. So just reach out to us if you have any project specific questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Tess. And yeah, I will mention too that my team specifically is constantly looking into and forming relationships with new incentive programs in new states, and of course, continuing to build our participation and expertise portfolio within the states that we're already operating. So we see new funding and new incentive programs popping up here and there, and we like to make it a point to stay on top of those and form those relationships so we can be of assistance to you. All right, the next question that I'll take the lead on is going to be, what are some common challenges for organizations applying for clean energy funding? Um, so I think we pretty much highlighted this throughout the presentation today, and that is maybe the focus being on that timeline slide that I just reviewed. There's a lot of eligibility parameters. There's a lot of detail in what works, what doesn't work, what sites are eligible, what funding can I really expect. And then on top of all of that kind of just guidance, there's the actual applying process. Every program often requires different formats and they have their own nuances. So one may prefer an invoice this way, one may prefer it completely differently. So that's what I would say kind of the biggest challenges is that not all programs are made equal. And that's what my team is really here to help you with. Since we participate in programs, we have that experience, we have that background. We also make a point, if we haven't participated in a program before, we do extensive research up front and have kind of a key list of questions that we ask. That way we can be sure that when it does come time to submit an application on behalf of one of our customers, we can be pretty close to getting it perfect and right the first time. So we know the right questions to ask. We do our research because it can be extremely overwhelming to kind of navigate all the different eligibility requirements, the fine print, the terms and conditions, things like that. So alrighty, I think that's going to wrap up our presentation for today. Again, I know we've said it several times, but if you have any questions about what we've covered today, if you have a particular project you'd like to just see what what incentive might be a good fit for it. Even if it's located in a different state outside of New Jersey, we'd be happy to take a look and give you some further information on that. So please reach out to us at sales@powerflex.com to kind of initiate that communication, and we'll get back to you. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today. We had a blast sharing some of these really valuable funding opportunities, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.